This, my friends, is a very beautiful day. It's about 50 degrees, sunset here in the National Military Park. It's overcast, and this is absolutely, to me, this is an ideal day. This is a day that finds me filled with testicular fortitude. It's beautiful out here, you have to agree. Out for my evening walk. I don't think I've been out for a walk in several days. I've been stuck inside. I haven't been well. And it's a very old natural spring. It's been there since just after the Civil War. But so much to share, so little time. So many things going through my mind. And if you're tuning in, you're coming along, thanks so much. If you spend 3 minutes watching my videos, it's appreciated. And man, it's chilly, it's beautiful. If you have multiple sclerosis, this is an ideal day. And I've asked personally, one-on-one, with dozens of people, asked dozens of people with MS if this weather, they fare much better. And they do. So it's not just me. This is an ideal day if you have MS. This week I realized, and I forget a lot of things these days, this week I realized is the anniversary of me falling on my face and realizing that I was at the point of no return with my health. Two years ago this week, my sleep patterns were completely out of control. I was sleeping 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and that has continued to today, 2 years later, but not as consistently. In spring of 2017, I knew I was getting ill, and I thought it was iron buildup from hereditary hemochromatosis. What I didn't know was that it was the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, which I was given several years prior to 2017, that was actually catching up with me. So back in 2012, 2013, I went to the doctor with an arm injury, and apparently he didn't like my vitals. I just went for, my ligaments had been shifted over top of each other in my arm from doing some landscaping. Was incredibly painful. And I just went in for an arm injury. I went into the doctor with an arm injury, and I left with a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And if you would have seen me back then, I was in the kind of shape that Brad Pitt was in the movie Fight Club. Okay? I was in such good health, it was unbelievable. And I'd worked very hard to attain that level of health. So I thought the doctor was a quack. Never went back. But he told me in the next 5 years, you're going to start losing your motor skills. You're going to start losing your cognitive ability. And so here we are, several years later, and his diagnosis was correct. And that diagnosis was reconfirmed in March of 2018 when I had to apply for Social Security disability. 2 doctors checked me out all day and they confirmed that diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And these were doctors appointed by Social Security. In this wind, I'm going to have to cut it off. But it was 2 years ago this week that I had seriously fallen on my face, where I knew that I was not going to be able to work again anytime in the foreseeable future. Days, weeks, and months were blurring into one another. Several months earlier, in the spring of 2017, like I said, I knew I was getting sick, but I thought it was just hemochromatosis and I needed a blood transfusion. And again, that turns out that that wasn't the case. So I was non-existent on the internet. I was non-existent on social networks for an entire year. I wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't on Instagram. I was unable to physically or mentally engage those social networks. My day consisted of basically trying to get a meal, trying to get a bath, that sort of thing. But in any event, that's the short story, hopefully not too long, that it was 2 years ago that I fell incredibly ill, sicker than I've ever been, and I simply couldn't function for a year, and that was the toughest year of my life. It wasn't made any easier by people who lacked integrity, giving me false hope and blowing smoke up my ass, and making false promises and breaking their word. Okay? And so, Brother Aesop's moral of the story of the day: don't ever believe anything anyone ever tells you, and you'll never be let down. If you ever get to a juncture in your life where you are facing death at any given moment, then you will be very, very particular, and your standards will go sky high in regard to who you choose or allow to be around you for what time remains in your life. Beautiful, isn't it? Surround yourself with beauty. Surround yourself with people who understand what integrity is. People whose word is worth more than gold. Because tomorrow might be your last day, and I see an albino something or other scooting across the fields, and it might just be a gray fox. As blurry as the vision in my left eye is, you're not going to be able to see him with this camera, but yeah, that's either a dog or it's a white fox, and it's probably a dog. But in any event, the shelf life of my organs was 2013. Given the great strides and choices that I've made regarding my diet, exercise, etc., over the last several years, I've prolonged my health. And I'm still here. Oh, he's good. I'm all good with dogs. Hi, sweetie. Look at you.
She's all working though. She's ready to go off.
Awesome. You have a great rest of your walk.
Are you going this way?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no sweat.
Ready?
You too. Have a great night. Always nice to run into people out in the woods. And for those half a dozen people who contacted me 2 years ago, who contacted me a year ago, okay, to see how I was doing because I wasn't on social networks, thank you. I know each and every one of your names and I'll never forget it. So next week is my birthday, and I turn 51 years old. That's pretty damn good since I wasn't supposed to make it to 45. But I'm still kicking. My liver hurts. Most of the time I feel like I got hit by a train. I feel like I ran 10 miles. And on that note, I applied for disability in March of 2018. 5 days later, I was granted disability. Let me ask you, how many people do you know on disability in the United States? I only know 2 people. And me, I've traveled and I've lived far and wide, further and wider than most people I know. There's very few people that have traveled as extensively or lived in as many places as I have that I've known in my life. And I've met a lot of people, and a lot of people everywhere. And I don't mean internet Facebook acquaintances. I mean real people who've been in my living room and they know my child. Okay? And out of all those people, I currently only know 2 people who are on disability, who've actually been granted disability. Okay, and one of those close friends of mine has applied 3 times. And I swear that person is sicker than I am. Okay? So the fact that I applied for disability and I was granted disability 5 days later, okay, in contrast to the dozen people I know a dozen people who have applied for disability over the last 10 years and have been turned down, okay, with serious back issues, you name it, okay? Me, I was granted disability in 5 days. That should demonstrate how sick I truly am, okay? Hopefully someday somebody remembers this hobo and looks back at my videos and you find something that I had to say a little valuable. I'm signing off from this very beautiful battlefield and national park here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. For all of my friends far and wide, thanks for tuning in. And last but not least, comment below if you did indeed watch this video. Wishing you all a very good and a very memorable and a very prosperous Thorsday. From yours truly, Stan Lee. So, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. I hope you are surrounded by people who love you and care about you. And I hope you have an incredibly prosperous and favorable day tomorrow. Hail Thor.